Hello and welcome to the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from 104.9. I'm Paul Kretschmer. Today I'm going to be speaking with Dorothy Logan, author of a book called Black and White, an essay on critical theory, freedom, and the pursuit of happiness. Dorothy Logan holds graduate degrees in political science and has served as a professor, worship leader, performing musician, and organizational coach. She founded Freedom Academy in 2020 and has taught critical thinking, worldview, cultural history, and political science at the university level for more than 20 years.
You know, titles are meant to sell books, but it's an essay on critical theory, freedom, and the pursuit of happiness. And when we look at black and white, people immediately go to racial critical theory, like critical race theory. But my point in the book is about black and white, but it has nothing to do with race.
Okay, what does it represent without giving away the whole plot?
Well, it's kind of difficult to do that, but this idea that there's only two sides to everything, and one side is always the oppressor and the other side is always the oppressed. The only two sides we should be interested in are objective measures of good and evil, right, wrong, that sort of thing. But in this world of critical theory, and I try to explain so a layman can understand critical theory instead of everything that comes out in the media in sound bites, is that it's the theory itself is based upon falsehoods and false premises, and therefore should be completely rejected.
Does that mean that when a person hears something from media that more often than not they're hearing a straw man thesis?
Absolutely. When you think about the messages that have been coming out of universities over the last generation or two, at first it was pretty insidious, very low-key. Now it's gotten to the point where people can't really ignore it. But the insidious nature, the low-key nature, has influenced the thinking of everybody coming out of the university system over the past generation or two. Meaning these people are back in the classroom, yes, but they're also in technology firms and social media experts and technology experts. They're in the law, they're in the courtroom, they're lawyers, they're judges, they're in the newsrooms, they're reporters, they're in the entertainment industry, they're screenwriters and producers, they are everywhere. And so these people have had their entire thinking along this directed and pushed in a certain direction to bring the messaging in such a complete and constant way to everyone else. And therefore, yes, you should assume that their viewpoints, their perspectives, their opinions, and even are based on false premises, and they could even be, yes, spouting false facts if they're in the news industry.
Okay, since I'm a member of the news industry, that caused that perhaps presupposes that someone who is a journalist by profession is not someone that an average person on the street can actually take at face value, but it requires some perhaps considerable prying under the surface in order to figure out what they're saying and what it represents, as opposed to just give me the facts, Jack, and let me think for myself.
Right, but that's kind of the problem too, because if we were actually thinking for ourselves, we could listen to the facts and determine whether or not they were facts based on logic and reasoning. We've grown up. Our children are now growing up in a society where they are expected to have the answers handed to them. They don't have to think about it. They don't know how to think for themselves. They know how to feel. They're told how they might feel about something, but they've never really examined how to think about something that's put out there as a fact and examine it just on its face value to determine whether or not it could even be a fact. So we don't think for ourselves anymore. And I'm not talking about you or me or people necessarily in the industry that I just kind of attacked you're in. But this idea that people K through 12, they're not being taught these things. And once you get to college or even the workforce, the people, your CEOs, your business owners, they've all been conditioned very slyly, very surreptitiously into thinking in a certain way, and it's not for themselves.
Your premise raises in my memory as a history buff as well as a newsman something that appeared in a Reader's Digest article in, I think it was September 1939, the same month World War II began actually, from one of the heads of the German government under Hitler, which is essentially, if you give us your children, we've got them for life.
Absolutely. And that's why the part of the Communist Manifesto, one of the 10 planks was public education, right? Let the state educate your child. Let them tell you what to, let us tell them what it means to be a good citizen. Let us tell them what they should believe. Let us give them the facts. And we have taken that in the United States. This isn't just K-12 education. This isn't just academia. Now we are teaching children through cartoons and movies and social media, and it's just everywhere and constant. And so, yeah, they have us.
Would it be fair to say that because the electronic media, specifically the web, has made this more insidious than ever because it's constant in a way that perhaps technology didn't provide that kind of insistent or continuous spoon feeding in the past?
Absolutely. And not only is it constant and readily available, but they've even admitted that they set up the algorithms to reinforce these things, to reinforce the way you believe, to reinforce division, to reinforce this idea of two sides to everything. They've actually admitted this, and yet we still can't see it.
There is a lawsuit that was announced yesterday by attorneys general in all the states, and I happen to be looking in and listening in on the one here in Connecticut where I operate out of, against Meta, for what they do as far as collecting information is concerned. Does collecting information and then about people, individuals, and then using it as a marketing tool represent one way of looking at what you're talking about?
Yes, but it's probably the smallest aspect of it. It's what we always focus on because it's what we can understand. But that data that they collect, what you look up, whether it's a product or a service or a news article or a talking head or a spin, master, they are they're collecting that data, and they know more about you than you probably know about yourself.
Yeah, I kind of thought you'd say that because many of us live on a day-to-day basis that is so jam-packed with things to do that we oftentimes don't have time even to look under the hood of ourselves to understand exactly what we're facing, what we're looking at, how we're responding to it, and so on. That's my thought.
And that's exactly right. And now, if you want to get into something really kind of scary, with the advent of AI, not knowing exactly where it's going to go, which is part of the scary aspect of it. It is possible that an entity can know more about you and act on that knowledge in a second or a very short amount of time. At least right now, the algorithms are, the spider bots, again, it's very quick. But imagine if that was in the hands of someone with knowledge and ability to act on that knowledge.
Does that mean that AI wouldn't necessarily be an inherent danger in and of itself, but rather in the hands of someone who is using it as a tool? People talk a lot about AI is going to take over, robots will rule the world, humans will be subjugated. Is all of that merely wants to tickle our brains? Or?
I think that the possibility is there, right? We've all watched iRobot or Terminator or any of these other movies or shows that demonstrate, okay, if the computers take over, it's not good for humankind. But even the people inside the technology see a danger here because they don't know how to limit it.
Once again on the WIHS Journal, you've been listening to a conversation with Dorothy Logan about her collection called Black and White, an essay on critical theory, freedom, and the pursuit of happiness. For further information about what you heard on today's broadcast, call us at 860-346-1049, 860-346-1049, or email us, office@wihsradio.org, office@wihsradio.org. The opinions expressed are those of the participants, not necessarily those of the staff or management of the station. I'm Paul Kretschmer for the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from 104.9 WIHS.